Buck Levasseur showed us the Upper Peninsula for over 30 years. It's time for a look back. It's time for rediscovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. Black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
The 1992 firearm deer season was not a record year here in Michigan, but in the Upper Peninsula, some hunters bagged some dandies. Next up on this opening day discovering, we'll look back at two of my favorite features from the 1992 season. How long have you been hunting together?
62 years.
For Saul Tadeucci and the gang at the Twin Lakes camp in Houghton County, deer season's been a very important part of life.
Teeny shot 18 bucks from that stump.
That's it, please.
18 bucks.
Oh, is that right?
From that same stump.
Wow. Well, I would.
Oh, imagine it.
And here I am for the day.
So now that your hunt is over for the day, I invite you to sit back and relax and take part in another deer hunting tradition, Upper Michigan's very own discovering. Over the years, I've had the privilege to visit many UP deer camps and to sit and listen to the elder hunters as they tell their tales of the good old days. Well, this is the story of one such camp. The buck poll here at the Twin Lakes camp in Houghton County shows only one buck, a nice 8-pointer. But for this camp, that's extremely unusual, because if this buck poll could talk, it would tell of the hunters that built it. Some of the most skilled, dedicated, and ethical hunters you'll ever find. The core of the original group, which started in 1930, was Solomon Tadeucci of South Range and Louis Lombardi of Calumet. Next to join were Louis' brother Butch Lombardi, former Tri-Mountain and now Manistee resident Pete Nelly, and Louis' brother-in-law Martin Iskra Sr. Later, they were joined by Saul's son Jack and Frank and Martin Iskra Jr. Their long tradition was a friendship bonded with a similar viewpoint on hunting. The group pledged never to shoot does. They hunted hard, skilled woodsmen all, with experience, knowledge, and respect for the magnificent whitetail.
Oh, the big one got up, but he was so thick, but we fired anyway. You know, we were hitting right, but they won't go through.
That's not the tricky part.
Then you know, you went, oh, you could see the horns, you know. Ba-doom, boy. But he said, Johnny said, boy, your shots are perfect, but couldn't go through.
Yeah.
Solomon, now age 79, and Louis, 81, were once rugged outdoorsmen. When they hear someone dragged a deer a mile, they laugh, because once they dragged a deer for an entire day.
You see, from the car, we walked in from the car, 2 miles, you know, from the car, to where we
That
hunt.
old railroad, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that day, Louis shot it, and when I come on the track, I seen somebody, Louis was coming up. I said, I think you shot it. Yeah, I got one. And it was in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. Right. I think it was 3 o'clock.
He said, what do you think? I said, it's going out. We're going to drag it. Louis said, no, we're going to drag it.
Yeah.
So the other guy was coming out too, Ralph, his name was. What do you think, Ralph, shall we pull? Come on. Buck, we started. Anyway, halfway, you remember, Louis, there was them 3 guys that come by?
Yeah. From
And
that
Louis
time.
asked them, and they were going to town.
Yeah, we dragged them right to town, you know.
Yeah.
From,
Louis asked them, boys, can you give us a hand, seeing you're going that way? No, we can't. Louis said, boy, I got a good man to whack him, no lie, boy. Oh, he was mad. Anyway, I said, all right, he'll go in. Drag. One guy carried the guns, the other 2 drag. So anyway, we reached town, Buck. Oh, it was what?
right.
It was 8 o'clock or something like that or more.
Well, it was close to midnight.
That's why, Buck, when they talk about drags, I laugh. A lot of them guys. Oh, we dragged far. I got a good man to tell them, you don't know what far is. 7 miles, boy, on the button too, boy, you bet. But I mean hard going, no snow. Oh.
Since 1941, the gang has met here at the Twin Lakes camp at least twice a year. First time is in the spring for a trout fishing expedition, which includes making plans for November. Then it's deer season. While this camp has a 51-year tradition, there was one that preceded it back in the 30s.
We had the Lone Eagle camp in Winona, 1930.
Yeah, that's the year we built it.
And we had it till 1934, and they burnt it on us.
Who burnt it?
I don't know. We don't know who did it.
No.
I don't know. So I suppose jealous, you're
Was it on private property?
No.
Well, it was Copper Range
Copper
land.
Range owned it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
owned the property,
That's it.
but
Yeah.
there's a bunch from Winona, I guess. They were jealous of us.
I think
We
so
were
too.
catching too much deer game. And
Yeah, they were jealous. That's all it's good.
rabbit. One year we had, 100 rabbits on that pole?
109.
109 rabbits. Yeah. Yeah. I guess somebody was jealous.
Yeah, and they caught onto it. And one summer, no, fall or summer it was, we went up there.
Yeah.
Cat was gone.
Oh, that's too bad.
You bet.
That was back when deer hunting was really good, wasn't
Oh, man. People won't believe it. It's all the young folks. They won't believe it. Now they see deer. Oh boy, that deer we seen. I tell them, you haven't seen nothing.
No, right.
When you see 30, 40, 50 a day, then you're seeing deer.
That's the way it was. That's the way it was. No kidding.
Honest. In fact. Oh boy, them days. Oh man.
These guys sure have fun reliving the good old days. Back then, everyone in the gang was young, healthy, and strong. Louis was a driller in the copper mines. Today, his legs are failing, but he still hunts. Saul, meanwhile, still walks 6 miles a day, and he's in the bush whenever he can. Meanwhile, several of the surviving members were absent for this year's hunt. Butch Lombardi and Pete Nelly and Jack Teddiucci. Louis and Saul said it's just not the same without them, because while deer hunting is important, the friendship and the camaraderie of a lifetime is at the top of the list. A half-century ago, traveling to the UP to hunt deer was an adventure. The long waits for the car ferries was frustrating at times, but it was all part of the sacrifice you had to make to hunt here in God's country. "81-year-old Claude Kennedy of downstate DeWitt remembers many trips. In fact, he's now celebrating 50 years of hunting in Dickinson County. During most of those years, he stayed at the farm of Rose and Bert Phyllis of Ralph. Now, Bert passed away several years ago, but his wife Rose has maintained the tradition of boarding hunters. Claude prefers to stay in the one-room cabin, one that was once the farm's well house. To him, this old building is deer camp.
I've enjoyed everything. I'm going to come as long as I can come up here. And my wife comes up with me most of the time. She didn't come up this year. So I stay in the cabin here for about 3 weeks. Then I room and board with Rose for about a week.
Now, you remember coming here through all those hassles at the Straits of Mackinac, huh?
Yeah, from 1943 on, till they got the bridge built.
So it was 15 years
Yeah.
you had to put up with
Yeah.
crossing on those ferries.
I like to wait at the Straits, really. That was more fun. You met a lot of people. You know, everybody is everybody's friend. And all of them, some of them, one year come up here and here's two guys on a motorcycle with a sidecar going deer hunting.
So how are they planning to get a deer home?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that. But that was really funny because they were in line with us. And we used to have, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of us used to come up here every year. And always enjoyed it. And with very few years that we ever missed getting our buck.
You mentioned that at the Straits, you had to keep your car running quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if you got low on gas and got out of line, you were in trouble.
Well, you couldn't get out of line or you had lost your place in line. But maybe that only happened for a couple of days, and then the boats would get caught up because it seems as though everybody wanted to go at a certain day, like 2 days before season or so. And sometimes you could go right up there and you wouldn't have to wait only 5-6 hours. And you could get on a boat and come across and run into big snowstorms and everything else. Sleet and ice. And
So at that time, it was a real challenge to get here and to get home.
that's right. Sometimes you got snowbound once in a while on the highway. And I've run into a couple of trees with my truck in the last few years. Bent the bumpers all up on them. But been a lot of fun anyway.
The Phyllis farm has had a long tradition of successful hunters. These photos provided by Rose show many of the nice bucks that were taken throughout the decades. Most of these hunters no longer come here, but the tradition is carried on as the sons of the original crew are now bringing their sons. At age 81, Claude is the senior member, and he remembers how things once were in the little community of Ralph.
At one time, this was really the deer
Yes.
hunting capital of the UP, wasn't it?
It sure was. It's been advertised that way for a good many years. And there's lots of deer around here, and I've hunted in every direction out of Ralph. And you just, if you're going deer hunting, I wouldn't want to go hunting any place else but around Ralph.
Say, it used to be pretty crowded in town.
Oh, and years ago, you could, camps were all over the place. There were tents and tents. I've stayed in tents a good many years. They didn't have cabins to rent or nothing, So you went out in the woods and stayed in, sometimes I stayed in a lumberman's cabin they'd put up for their loggers, They closed down, the logging industry closed down during deer season, used to, when they had big crowds up here. And everybody was in town, all the loggers, it made a lot of people. I'm age 81, yeah.
You
in
hunt
October.
every day of the season.
I hunt every day, 26 days a year, or out of the year. Set in the same blind. I don't always in the same. Once in a while I'll go over to the other blind, but I generally set in the blind because I can't walk. That's my main problem is walking. And so I have to set. But I see more deer that way too.
And you get there before daylight?
Sometimes I don't get there till after daylight, but I like to get there by daylight. And I hunt till dark. And you generally see a lot of deer. Anybody builds a blind and just sets in it day in and day out, if they got the time, will see deer.
How's it been this year?
The hunting has been, during the rifle season, I hunted 16 days. I sat there and I seen 7 deer, 7 does, all during the rifle season. The 17th day was the muzzle loading, and the first deer I seen at 11 o'clock was a buck I got.
And as you can see, the buck he got was a dandy. A 9-pointer that dresses out at an estimated 180 pounds.
Now you shoot a Thompson Hawkins 50 caliber?
Yes.
Are you using the round ball?
No, I use a Hornady bullet.
Nice big rack.
Mm-hmm.
Must have been exciting.
It was. When I see him standing so beautiful, standing there, and just a big buck standing with his head up in the air like that, I couldn't believe it. Well, just something that you don't see every day. When you can see the whole deer standing there like that.
Was it a very far shot?
Yeah, about 30 yards.
Mm-hmm. And you're using iron sights.
Iron sights, yeah.
Any problem with that? I noticed you got a little orange on the...
Yeah, I can't, and they told me, the eye doctors tell me that when you're age, I have little specks in my eyes, and that affects your eyes. You can look and you have good eyesight, but you can't aim at anything, unless you got something to look into. And so I have to have a little paint on the end of my front sight to see it good, because it blurs if you don't.
So is this one of your better deer that you've taken?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest ones I've taken. One of the biggest ones I've taken in, as I say, 10, 12 years.
You've had bigger?
No, I don't know as I've had any bigger. I had another 9-pointer. We weighed it when we got it into the camp at 180. So I figure it's about the same. And then I got a big one, they called it a 17-pointer, was probably as 182 also. And I've got a 12-pointer once that was about that size. And I've got lots of spikes and 4-pointers and 8-pointers and 6-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
But very few years that it goes by that I don't get my buck.
Well, I forgot to ask you, how did you get that big buck out of the woods?
Well, 3 hours of just dragging, and I didn't have very far to drag him either. But most of it was kind of downhill and uphill a little bit, but there's lots of snow on, and I just took my time, and it was a lot of fun.
All by yourself?
All by myself. And nobody was around. I'm hunting all by myself.
Claude's blind is made of canvas and plastic, materials he removes at the end of the season. Without the blind and heater, his hunting days would be over. Despite being crippled in one hand and suffering from arthritis, Claude sticks it out day after day. He said it's a joy watching deer, something he looks forward to each and every year.
It was a lot of fun to watch them, and I enjoy just watching. I seen a bobcat year before last, and I seen a turkey out there one year, and so that's something a little different, I see lots of birds. There's oodles of birds, and a few pats, and it's nice to watch them. They come and land a tree up above you, and all the birds feeding around you, and then little chickadees and things coming in swarms, and I enjoy the woods. And every year I spend my time in the woods as much as I can. When I worked, I used to always have a month off, and I always took it up deer hunting. And always come to Ralph.
Lawrence County, here's your white buck.
Last week here on Discovering, I showed you the unveiling of the beautiful full mount of this awesome albino buck, one that was illegally shot in Florence County, Wisconsin last year. Well, the buck is now on permanent display at the Wild Rivers Interpretive Center in Florence, and taxidermist Ken Roberts of Northern Star Taxidermy in Iron Mountain explains what a nerve-wracking job it was to work with such a valuable specimen.
I was not a real nice guy to be around for the few days that I was working with the animal itself. I knew when you take it out and you start working on it, there's no replacing it. And once you start, there's no turning back. Yeah, there's very little oil, if any, within the hide or within the fur. Normal brown phase whitetail has really an incredible amount of oil in the fur. They're a lot easier to handle. And with the eyes, I had to have them specially painted. They're the pink base eye. They were hand veined, hand painted, and hand fired for me. And then as far as the skin goes, you have to be careful that you use no dyes in any of the tanning solutions or oils. You're dealing with a snow white animal. You didn't want to do just a commercial mount with us. I wanted to do something that would grab people's attention, hold people's attention. I realized that a lot of people were going to see this and view this over the next several decades, hopefully. And it was an animal that I had never seen before. I have never seen an animal even close to this. It was something just to behold, to look at it. And I was completely awestruck by it when I first saw it, and I still am. And I hope that other people coming in here will view it in the same light that I did.
Until next week, this is Buck Levasseur saying, get out and enjoy the great outdoors.